Hello everyone, welcome to this reflection for Wednesday in Holy Week, 8th of April 2020. What a difference a day makes. As we live through this coronavirus epidemic, each day brings big changes. Another record number of deaths. Darkness perhaps rather than light. And we fear, don't we, if we're honest? Can I recommend John Lennox's little book published this week, Where is God in a Coronavirus World? I've got a few copies. Do borrow one from me and pass it on. Our reading today is from Mark's Gospel, chapter 14. Now the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread were only 2 days away, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were scheming to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the festival, they said, or the people may riot. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly. "Leave her alone," said Jesus. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them any time you want. But you will not always have me." She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. Truly, I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Now Mark mentions that the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were only 2 days away. The Passover commemorated the deliverance of the children of Israel from their bondage in Egypt. God had sent plague after plague on Egypt, and as each plague came, Pharaoh promised to let the people go. But when each plague abated, he hardened his heart and went back on his word. This went on for weeks. The plagues were awful: a plague of blood, of frogs, gnats, flies, a plague on livestock, boils, the plague of hail, locusts, darkness. Was God being vindictive or patient, determined to free his people from horrible slavery, no matter what the cost? It was God who was in charge, not Pharaoh. And after all these chances, when Pharaoh could have yielded but refused to, finally there came that terrible night when the angel of death was to walk through the land of Egypt and slay every firstborn son in every home. The Israelites were to slay a lamb, and then, with a bunch of hyssop, they were to smear the lintel of the doorpost with the blood of the lamb. When the angel of death saw it, he would pass over that house, and its occupants would be safe. Before they went on their way, the Israelites were to eat a meal of a roasted lamb and unleavened bread. And it was that Passover, that deliverance, and that meal that the Feast of Passover commemorated. It was compulsory for every adult male Jew who lived within 15 miles of Jerusalem to come to the Passover. But far more than these came. It was the ambition of every Jew to eat at least one Passover in Jerusalem before he died. Therefore, from every country in the world, pilgrims came flocking to Jerusalem. During the Passover, all lodging was free. The city could not hold the crowds, and Bethany and Bethphage were two of the outlying villages where the pilgrims lodged. The numbers of pilgrims were vast. Josephus tells us that one year a count was made of all the lambs slaughtered, more than 250,000. Now the law was that there must be a minimum party of 10 people to one lamb, so there must have been close on 3 million pilgrims in Jerusalem. During the Passover, feelings ran high. The remembrance of the old deliverance from Egypt made the people long for a new deliverance from Rome. The Jewish authorities knew that in this inflammable atmosphere, the arrest of Jesus might well provoke a riot. Now Jesus was in the house of a man called Simon the leper in the village of Bethany. Now in Palestine, people did not sit to eat, they reclined on low couches. They lay on a couch, resting on their left elbow and using the right hand to take their food. So anyone coming up to someone lying like this would stand well above them. To Jesus there came a woman with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. It was the custom to pour a few drops of perfume on a guest when he arrived at a house or when they sat down to a meal. This particular phial held nard, a very precious ointment made from a rare plant that came from far off India, growing on the slopes of the Himalayas. But it was not a few drops that this woman poured on the head of Jesus. She broke the jar and poured the entire contents on his head. And John tells us in his Gospel that actually it was a pint of pure nard. Further, that the woman was Mary, sister of Martha and Lazarus, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. We can imagine this overwhelming quantity of perfume running down on Jesus' head and neck and shoulders. And John tells us that Mary then poured it also on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And some of those present were grumbling, "Why this waste? Could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor." They rebuked her harshly. But Jesus stands up for the woman. He said it was a lovely thing she had done, so extravagant. Yet if love is true love, there must always be a certain extravagance to it. There is a recklessness in love which refuses to count the cost. Finally, let's note one more thing. We see the invincible confidence of Jesus. The cross loomed close ahead now, but Jesus never believed the cross would be the end. He knew the good news would go all round the world. And with the good news there went the story of this lovely thing, done with love's reckless extravagance, done out of a heart of love.